The commander of Nexus Prime, Vexar, moved through the control room, his green scales reflecting the numerous blue screens. The colossal space station, larger than any metropolis, stood guard over the Galactic Empire's border. It was believed that nothing could pass undetected. He paused at Lieutenant Krisanova's station, where her bright yellow eyes meticulously scanned sensor readings. "Anything unusual?" Vexar's low rumble of a voice inquired. "No, sir." "All normal," Krisnova responded, though a subtle hesitation in her tone drew the commander's attention to her display. The void of space appeared tranquil, dotted with stars and familiar planetary bodies. Trade vessels followed their established paths, broadcasting their identification signals. Despite the apparent calm, Krisnova felt an unsettling premonition. 3 hours later, a faint fleeting blip appeared on her screen. It vanished as quickly as it materialized. She blinked, re-examined the screen, but saw nothing amiss. "Sensor glitch," she murmured, attributing it to aging equipment and the unpredictable effects of space on electronics. She noted it in her report and continued her vigil. 20 minutes later, the blip reappeared, this time for a duration of roughly 3 seconds. Krisnova's heart quickened. A swift diagnostic confirmed her equipment was functioning perfectly. Miles away, cloaked in the vastness, something stirred. The USS Defiance sliced through the emptiness, a ship nearly 2 kilometers in length, its dark gray, almost black hull fortified with advanced armor. Captain Jake Morrison, a tall man with short brown hair and serious blue eyes, stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars through the main view screen. His uniform was impeccable, but his face betrayed the weariness of prolonged wakefulness. "Status, Lisa?" he asked, not turning. Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks, a petite woman with red hair pulled into a ponytail, glanced up from her console. Her hands deftly managed the ship's systems. "The quantum displacement drive is operating optimally, Captain," she confirmed. "We're flitting between dimensions every few seconds. Their sensors might catch a flicker, but they won't get a lock." Morrison nodded. The technology was cutting edge, barely 6 months out of Earth's testing phase. It allowed the ship to phase in and out of normal space, rendering it virtually invisible to conventional sensors. The Defiance could appear momentarily on an adversary's screen, then vanish before they could ascertain its presence. "How much longer until we breach their detection grid?" Morrison inquired. Navigator Ben Taylor, a young man of about 25 with black hair and agile fingers, consulted his instruments. 15 minutes, sir. Once we cross that threshold, we're in their territory. No turning back." Morrison felt the immense weight of his responsibility. Earth had observed the Galactic Empire for years, witnessing countless worlds succumb to its dominion, millions enslaved or slaughtered. The Empire believed itself unconquerable, and until now, no one had dared to challenge them. "Remember, crew?" Morrison addressed them. "We're not here to ignite a conflict. We're here to assert humanity's existence and our refusal to be intimidated. But if they compel our hand..." He left the sentence unfinished, confident that everyone on the bridge understood the Defiance's capabilities. The ship housed planet-shattering weaponry and shields that could repel any Imperial assault. Yet Morrison harbored hope they wouldn't be necessary. Back on Nexus Prime, Krisanova's apprehension grew. The enigmatic blip was appearing more frequently, its signal strengthening. Every diagnostic yielded the same perplexing result. Something massive, something that shouldn't exist, was out there. She summoned sensor technician Morak, an older soldier with facial scars from the Kelvin Rebel War. He scrutinized her screen, a frown deepening on his face. "What am I seeing?" he asked. "I don't know," Krisanova admitted. "It appears for a few seconds, then vanishes. But look at the size readings." Morak's eyes widened. The sensors indicated an immense object, far exceeding the size of any known vessel, even the Empire's largest battleships. "This must be an error," Morak stated. "Nothing of that magnitude could approach undetected." Yet as he spoke, the blip reappeared, lingering for nearly 10 seconds. Long enough for the computers to generate a partial analysis. Long enough to confirm it was artificial, a construct. "Get Commander Vexar," Krisnova instructed. her voice trembling. Now. The USS Defiance maintained its covert approach. In the ship's war room, intelligence analyst Tom Walker meticulously examined maps of the Galactic Empire. A quiet man with a knack for discerning patterns, his task was to comprehend their adversary, to predict their reaction when humanity finally revealed itself. "They've never faced a true challenge," Tom informed Captain Morrison. "For a millennium, they've conquered every species they've encountered. They believe they're invincible." "Good," Morrison replied. "That means they won't be prepared for us." Security Chief Nick Rodriguez, a large man with steady hands and an eagle eye, rechecked his armaments. His priority was the crew's safety, regardless of what unfolded. "Captain," Lisa Brooks called out, "we're nearing the outer detection grid. Should I increase our phase variance?" Morrison contemplated for a moment. They could further enhance their stealth, but that would also impede their ability to deliver their message when the time came. And that time was approaching swiftly. "Maintain current settings," he ordered. "Let them glimpse us. It's time they knew we were here." The Defiance slipped into Zalaxian space like a phantom ship entering a harbor. Behind them lay Earth and all they sought to protect. Ahead, the unknown and the most formidable empire the galaxy had ever witnessed. But Jake Morrison and his crew were ready. Humanity was on the verge of announcing its presence to the galaxy, forever altering its course. Commander Vexitar hurried to Lieutenant Chris Nova's station, his heavy boots echoing on the metal floor as other officers turned to watch. The control room fell silent, save for the soft hum of computers and the insistent beeping of warning signals. "Show me," Vexar demanded, his voice taut with concern. Chrisanova pointed to her screen. The enigmatic object reappeared, this time remaining visible for nearly 15 seconds. The computer struggled to process the data, yielding inexplicable results. "Sir, the readings indicate something 2 kilometers long," she reported. "The computer suggests it's composed of unknown metals and materials, but that's impossible. Nothing of that size could penetrate our defenses without triggering every alarm." Vexitar scrutinized the numbers. In 2 decades of military service, he had never encountered anything comparable. The largest Imperial ships were half that size, requiring months of construction and thousands of personnel. "Run a comprehensive diagnostic on all sensor equipment," he commanded. "This must be a malfunction." But sensor technician Mac shook his head. "Sir, I've already double-checked everything. The equipment is flawless. Whatever is out there, it's real." The object vanished again, leaving only empty space. But now they knew where to focus. Morak adjusted the sensors, attempting to pierce through whatever concealed the colossal vessel. "There," Chris Nova exclaimed suddenly. "I'm detecting energy. Signatures, power sources unlike anything in our database. Sir, the energy output of that thing, it's like a miniature star." A cold dread crept up Vexar's spine. He had fought in 3 wars, witnessed the Empire's adversaries employ every conceivable tactic. But this was different. This surpassed anything he had ever conceived. On the USS Defiance, Captain Morrison observed the tactical display. Red dots indicated the locations of Zalaxian sensors, which were now converging on his ship's position. "They're improving their tracking," Navigator Ben Taylor reported. "The phase variance is still effective, but they're learning to compensate." Morrison nodded. This was anticipated. The stealth technology was advanced but not infallible. And the Zalaxians were not foolish. Given sufficient time, they would decipher its workings. "How long until we reach their capital system?" Morrison asked. 18 hours at current speed," Taylor replied. Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks looked up from her console. "Captain, I'm detecting increased scanning activity from their border stations. They sense something is amiss, even if they can't clearly perceive us." Morrison walked to the communication station where Lieutenant Amy Chen monitored Zalaxian radio traffic. Young yet brilliant, her linguistic aptitude made her ideal for this mission. "What are they saying?" Morrison inquired. "They're confused and anxious," Amy replied. "The border station is reporting to higher command, but their officers are incredulous. Some suspect enemy action, others believe their equipment is faulty." Morrison offered a grim smile. Confusion would play to their advantage. Back on Nexus, Prime Commander Vexar confronted the most arduous decision of his career. The readings were growing stronger and clearer. The object was undeniably artificial, undeniably immense, and undeniably heading towards the heart of the Empire. He opened a communication channel to Admiral Thrawn, the station commander. Sire. Admiral was a seasoned soldier with gray scales and eyes that had witnessed countless battles. "What's your status, Commander?" the Admiral asked. "Sir, we have detected an unknown vessel of unprecedented size," Vexar reported. "It appears to be utilizing some form of stealth technology, but we're obtaining partial readings." Admiral Zithan's image flickered on the screen. "How big?" 2 kilometers long, sir. "Possibly larger." The Admiral remained silent for a long moment. "That's impossible. No one possesses the technology to construct something of that magnitude, and certainly no one has stealth systems advanced enough to penetrate our defenses." "Sir, I understand how it sounds, but the readings are consistent. We have multiple sensors confirming the data." "Send me everything you have," the Admiral ordered. "I need to see this for myself." The data transfer took mere minutes, but they felt like hours to Vexitar. He watched the Admiral's face transform as he absorbed the readings. Confusion gave way to disbelief, then to something akin to fear. "This can't be right," Admiral Zine declared. "Run the scans again. Check everything." "Sir, we've already run the scans 5 times. The results are identical." The Admiral was silent once more. Then he spoke in a voice that seemed smaller than before. "I'm forwarding this up the chain of command. Keep tracking that thing and prepare for the worst." On the bridge of the Defiance, Morrison reviewed reports from his officers. Every system was performing flawlessly. The crew was prepared for whatever lay ahead, but he knew the coming hours would be the most perilous of their mission. "Tom," he called to intelligence analyst Tom Walker. "What do we know about their response protocols?" Tom looked up from his datapad. "According to our intelligence, they've never faced a threat like this. Their procedures are designed for dealing with rebellions and minor incursions, not unknown vessels with superior technology. So, they'll panic," Morrison concluded. "Yes, sir, and panicked people make mistakes." Morrison hoped those mistakes wouldn't escalate into a full-blown conflict, but if they did, the Defiance was ready. Lieutenant Kryanova observed her screen as the enigmatic object continued its appearance and disappearance act. With each reappearance, the readings grew slightly clearer. She could discern weapon ports along its hull, armor plating that appeared incredibly thick, and energy shields that rendered their most advanced defensive systems obsolete. "Morak," she called quietly. "Look at these weapon signatures." The older soldier studied her screen, his face paling. "Those aren't in any of our databases. The power levels are off the charts." "What kind of people could build something like this?" Chris Nova whispered. Before Morai could answer, every alarm on the station blared. Red lights flashed and a voice reverberated through the corridors. "All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill." Commander Vexar received the order from Admiral Zathron. "Mobilize every ship in the sector. Whatever is coming, we will meet it with everything we have." But as he watched the readings from the unknown vessel, Vexar wondered if their combined might would be sufficient. On the Defiance, Morrison felt the moment when stealth became irrelevant. His ship was deep in enemy territory and there was no turning back. It was time to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy. "Open a channel on all frequencies," he ordered. Communication Officer Kate Sullivan nodded. "Channel open, sir." Morrison took a deep breath. The words he was about to utter would irrevocably alter the course of galactic history. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel USS Defiance. We come seeking dialogue with your Empire's leadership. We are not here as conquerors, but as equals who refuse to be ignored." The message permeated space, reaching every Zalaxian station and ship in the system. For the first time in over a millennium, someone was addressing the Empire as an equal. The ensuing silence seemed interminable. Then chaos erupted across every communication channel as the Zalaxian Empire grappled with the incomprehensible message. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same. Emperor Zarul sat upon his golden throne in the Imperial Palace, his red scales gleaming under the brilliant lights, his yellow eyes burning with fury. His advisors whispered nervously, attempting to decipher the impossible message they had received. "Humans," the Emperor declared, his voice resonating through the Grand Hall. "I demand to know everything about these creatures. How did they construct a ship that our foremost scientists declare impossible? Intelligence Officer Quindle stepped forward. Smaller than most Zaxians, with dark green scales and swift movements, her role was to be aware of every threat to the Empire. Yet she had almost no information. Your Majesty, we possess very little data regarding humans, she confessed. There are scattered reports from frontier worlds detailing strange bipedal beings. Traders occasionally mention them, but always as curiosities, never as threats. Curiosities? The Emperor's voice intensified. That curiosity just appeared in our space with a warship that makes our fleet resemble children's toys. Quindle bowed her head. The reports characterize them as problem solvers, Your Majesty. They seem to circumvent obstacles that would deter other species, but no one believed they were capable of this level of technology. Emperor Zerul rose from his throne. At his full height of 3 meters, he was an imposing figure who had intimidated countless adversaries. Today, however, he felt small and uncertain. Where is Grand Admiral Velos? He demanded. The 7th Imperial Fleet is moving to intercept the human vessel, an aide reported. 40 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. The Admiral is confident they can handle any single ship, regardless of its advancement. The Emperor hoped the Admiral was correct, but a gut feeling told him this would not be an easy victory. Grand Admiral Velos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the colossal dreadnought Eternal Glory. Around him, 40 of the Empire's finest warships moved in perfect formation. Each vessel carried enough firepower to obliterate a city, and together they could devastate entire planets. The Admiral was an old veteran, his dark blue scales marked with battle scars. He had fought in dozens of wars and remained undefeated. Today would not be his first loss. Long-range sensors show the target ahead, his tactical officer reported. Still employing some form of stealth system, but we can track it now. Good, Velos replied. Signal the fleet. We will encircle this human ship and demand its surrender. If they refuse, we will demonstrate the cost of challenging the Empire. But as they drew closer, the sensor readings grew more detailed. The human ship was even larger than the reports had indicated. Its hull was enveloped in incredibly thick armor plating, and energy readings revealed power systems beyond anything in their database. Admiral, the tactical officer said quietly, the power output from that ship is enormous. Their shields alone are generating more energy than our entire fleet. Velos felt a flicker of doubt, but he suppressed it. Numbers were paramount in space combat. 40 ships against 1, regardless of its technological superiority, should be a swift victory. On the USS Defiance, Captain Morrison observed the approaching fleet on his main screen. The Zalaxian ships looked formidable, but he knew appearances could be deceiving. 40 ships, Navigator Ben Taylor reported. 3 are Dreadnought class. They're moving to encircle us. Let them come, Morrison said calmly. Lisa, are our defensive systems ready? Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks nodded. All systems operating at full capacity, sir. Our shields can withstand anything they launch at us. Weapons Officer Kate Sullivan checked her instruments. All weapons armed and ready, Captain. The main plasma cannon is charged and standing by. Morrison had hoped to avert a conflict, but the Empire seemed intent on testing humanity's resolve. He would provide them with an unforgettable demonstration. Incoming transmission from the lead ship. Communication Officer Amy Chen reported. Put it on screen, Morrison ordered. Grand Admiral Velos appeared on the view screen, his scarred face conveying authority and confidence. Human vessel, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Morrison stepped forward, ensuring the Admiral could see him clearly. Admiral, I am Captain Jake Morrison. We came here to talk, not to fight, but if you insist on violence, we will defend ourselves. You have 1 ship against 40, Velos countered. Your technology may be advanced, but you cannot win this battle. Morrison smiled, though it was not a friendly expression. Admiral, would you like a demonstration of what human technology can do? Before Velos could respond, Morrison nodded to Kate Sullivan. Fire a warning shot. Target the small moon in this system. Aye, sir, Sullivan replied, her fingers moving over the weapon controls with practiced skill. The Defiance's main plasma cannon charged with a thunderous roar. Energy accumulated at the weapon's muzzle, creating a brilliant blue glow visible from light years away. Then with a flash that illuminated space, the cannon fired. The beam of concentrated energy traversed the solar system in seconds. It struck the small moon orbiting the system's 4th planet, and the result was spectacular. The entire moon simply vanished, converted to energy and scattered particles in less than a heartbeat. On the bridge of the eternal glory, every officer stared in stunned silence. The moon had been utterly annihilated by a single shot from a weapon they didn't even know existed. Impossible, Velos whispered. No weapon can generate that much power. His tactical officer's voice trembled as he reported, "Admiral, our sensors recorded the energy output of that shot. It was over 10,000 times more powerful than our largest guns." Velos felt fear creep into his heart for the first time in decades. If the humans could obliterate a moon with a single shot, what could they do to his fleet? Captain Morrison's voice came over the communication channel again, calm and steady. "Admiral, that was our smallest weapon, fired at minimum power. We have no wish to harm you, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. I suggest you reconsider your position." The Mars-Salaxian fleet hung in space, paralyzed by the display of power they had just witnessed. Every ship's sensors had recorded the impossible, a weapon capable of destroying worlds with a single shot. Admiral Morrison continued, "We offer you a choice. You can attack us and discover what our larger weapons can do, or you can allow us to continue to your capital world for peaceful negotiations. What will it be?" Grand Admiral Velos looked around his bridge at officers who had never known defeat. Their faces mirrored the shock and fear he felt. The Empire's greatest fleet had just been rendered insignificant by a single human warship. "All ships," he said slowly, "withdraw to a safe distance. Do not engage the human vessel, sir," his tactical officer asked in confusion. "You heard me," Velos replied. "We are outmatched. Retreat." The Imperial fleet pulled back, leaving the USS Defiance free to continue its journey towards the capital world. On ships throughout the fleet, officers dispatched urgent messages to their commanders attempting to explain what they had witnessed. Emperor Zarthol received the reports in his throne room. His greatest admiral, the man who had never lost a battle, was retreating from a single enemy ship. The weapon demonstration had been recorded by dozens of sensors, but the Emperor could barely believe what he was seeing. "They destroyed an entire moon," he said quietly, "with one shot." Intelligence Officer Quindle nodded grimly. "Your Majesty, if they can do that to a moon, they can do it to our planets, to our fleet, to anything they choose." The Emperor sank heavily onto his throne. For the first time in a millennium, the Galactic Empire faced an enemy it could not defeat through force. The humans were coming to his capital world, and there was nothing he could do to stop them. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, observing the retreating enemy fleet. The demonstration had been a resounding success. Now the Empire understood that humanity was not to be underestimated. "Set course for their capital world," he ordered, "and prepare a diplomatic message. It's time to have a real conversation with Emperor Zarthol." The USS Defiance continued through space, carrying with it the future of human galactic relations. Behind them, an empire struggled to comprehend how everything they thought they knew about power and technology had just been irrevocably altered. The USS Defiance materialized in the skies above Zalaxia Prime, a dark silhouette eclipsing the sun. The colossal human battleship glided slowly through the planet's orbital defenses, which now appeared toy-like compared to the alien vessel that had arrived. On the planet's surface, 12 billion Zalaxians gazed upwards, witnessing an unprecedented sight, a foreign warship hanging above their capital, their mighty fleet powerless to stop it. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge, looking down at the planet through the main view screen. The world was stunning, with azure oceans and verdant continents dotted with gleaming cities. But he knew those cities teemed with people whose civilization was built upon conquest. "Orbital defenses are tracking us," Security Chief Nick Rodriguez reported. 24 defense platforms, each armed with heavy plasma cannons, but they're not firing. "They learned their lesson," Morrison replied. "After what happened to their fleet, they know better than to attack us." Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks monitored the ship's systems as they maintained orbit above the enemy capital. "All systems running smoothly, Captain. The quantum displacement drive is standing by in case we need to depart quickly." Morrison nodded. They were deep in enemy territory, surrounded by potentially hostile forces. One misstep could transform this diplomatic mission into the genesis of a galactic war. "Any response from the planet?" he asked. Communication Officer Amy Chen shook her head. Nothing official yet, sir, but I'm monitoring their news broadcasts. The entire planet is in disarray. Some are advocating for an immediate attack. Others desire negotiation. Their government appears paralyzed. In the Imperial Palace far below, Emperor Zarthal paced his private chambers. His advisors had been locked in debate for hours, unable to agree on a course of action. The human ship hung above them like a suspended sword, and everyone understood it could annihilate their world with a single shot. "We must attack," General Kexmore insisted, the Emperor's military advisor, a scarred veteran who had never recoiled from a fight. "If we display weakness now, every world in the Empire will believe they can challenge us." "Attack with what?" Intelligence Officer Quindle retorted. "They destroyed a moon with one shot. Our orbital defenses would be useless against them." Princess Nexor sat quietly in the corner, absorbing the debate. Young for a member of the royal family, with bright silver scales and intelligent green eyes, she had been studying the intercepted human transmissions, seeking to comprehend what these peculiar creatures truly desired. "Father," she finally said, "perhaps we should hear what they have to say." Emperor Zarl ceased pacing and looked at his daughter. "You believe we should negotiate with them?" "They could have destroyed our fleet," Nixara replied. "They could have fired on our planet the moment they arrived, but they haven't. They stated they wanted to talk, and so far they've kept their word." General Kexmore made a sound of disgust. "They're waiting for us to exhibit weakness. The moment we agree to negotiate, they'll know they've won without a fight." "Haven't they already won?" the princess asked quietly. "They're orbiting our capital with a weapon that can destroy worlds. What more do they need to prove?" The Emperor remained silent for a long moment. He had reigned over the Empire for 30 years, and in all that time no one had ever defied his authority, but now he faced a choice that could determine the destiny of his entire civilization. "Send them a message," he finally said. "Tell them I will meet with their representative." On the Defiance, Morrison received the Emperor's response with relief. He had been prepared for a confrontation, but diplomacy was always the preferable option. "Ambassador Johnson," he called to his diplomatic officer. "You're up." Claire Johnson nodded and gathered her files. A small woman with gray hair and calm eyes that had witnessed many negotiations. This would be the most crucial meeting of her career. "Tom," Morrison said to intelligence analyst Tom Walker, "what can you tell us about their emperor?" Tom consulted his datapad. "Zarthal has ruled for 30 years. He's known for being ruthless but pragmatic. He's also never lost a major conflict. This will be difficult for him." "Good," Morrison replied. "Proud leaders make mistakes when cornered, but they also recognize when they're beaten." The meeting was arranged to take place on a hastily constructed neutral space station. It was a small structure, barely large enough for the two delegations, but it served its purpose. Emperor Zarthal arrived first, flanked by his guards and advisors. He wore his finest robes and carried himself with the dignity of someone who ruled over 1,000 worlds. But Morrison could discern the tension in his posture, the way his eyes repeatedly glanced towards the human battleship, visible through the station's windows. When Morrison entered the meeting room, the two leaders faced each other for the first time. The Emperor was tall and imposing, his red scales gleaming under the lights. Morrison was smaller and seemingly less impressive, but he carried himself with quiet confidence. "So," the Emperor said, "you are the humans who have caused such trouble for my empire." "We are the humans who refuse to be ignored," Morrison replied calmly. "Your empire has been expanding for centuries, conquering world after world, but you've never encountered a species that could match your technology." "And now we have," Zarol said. "It wasn't a question. Now you have," Morrison confirmed. "The question is, what do we do about it?" Ambassador Johnson stepped forward with a datapad containing humanity's proposal. "Your Majesty, we don't wish to be your enemies, but neither will we be your subjects. We're offering a different kind of relationship." The Emperor took the datapad and scanned its contents. The terms were simple yet revolutionary: recognition of humanity as an equal power, an end to imperial expansion into human territory, fair trade agreements, and technology sharing. "You ask me to treat you as equals," the Emperor said finally. "We don't ask," Morrison replied. "We demand, and we possess the power to enforce that demand." Princess Nexara leaned forward. She had been studying the human proposals with fascination. "Captain Morrison, your technology could benefit both our species. Imagine what we could achieve working together instead of as adversaries. Her father looked at her with surprise, but Morrison nodded approvingly. The princess understands. We are not here to destroy your empire. We're here to change it. General Kexmore spoke up angrily. The empire has never submitted to anyone. We will not start now. Morrison's expression hardened. General, your fleet attempted to stop us and failed. Your orbital defenses could not prevent us from reaching your capital. Your emperor sits here negotiating because he understands the alternative is the destruction of everything you've built. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the truth of Morrison's words, even if they were reluctant to admit it. Emperor Zarthal looked out the window at the human battleship floating in space. A single ship had altered everything. His empire, which had seemed invincible just days ago, now confronted its first true challenge in a millennium. What guarantee do I have that you won't simply destroy us once we've agreed to your terms? He asked. The same guarantee you give us, Morrison replied. Our word backed by our actions. We could have destroyed your fleet. We could have fired on your planet. Instead, we're sitting here talking. The Emperor remained silent for a moment, weighing his options. Then he looked at his daughter, who nodded encouragingly. Very well, Zarul said slowly. Let us discuss terms. Ambassador Johnson smiled and opened her negotiation files. The initial steps towards a new galactic order were about to commence, and humanity would have a voice in shaping the future of the galaxy. The negotiations spanned 3 days. Captain Morrison and Emperor Zarthal sat across from each other in the small meeting room, their advisors observing every word. Through the windows, the USS Defiance hung in space, a constant reminder of humanity's power. Ambassador Claire Johnson spread the final treaty documents on the table. The papers represented weeks of meticulous work, transforming ideas into laws that would govern relations between two civilizations. The Terrasaxia Accords, she announced. The first treaty in galactic history where the Empire recognizes another species as an equal partner. Emperor Zarthal picked up the documents and read them one more time. His red scales had lost some of their luster over the past few days. The stress of negotiating with equals was an experience he had never encountered. These terms will change everything, he said quietly. That's the point, Morrison replied. Your empire has ruled through fear and conquest for 1,000 years. It's time for something different. Princess Nexara leaned forward eagerly. She had spent hours conversing with the human delegation, learning about their technology and their way of thinking. Father, imagine what we could accomplish together. Their fusion technology could power our worlds for centuries. Their medicine could save millions of lives. General Sexmore made a sound of disgust from his corner of the room. We're relinquishing everything that made us strong. The other worlds will perceive this as weakness. The other worlds will perceive it as wisdom, Morrison countered. We're offering partnership, not domination. Your empire can continue to exist, but it must alter how it treats other species. Intelligence analyst Tom Walker spoke up from behind Morrison. General, your empire conquered through superior technology. Now you've encountered a species with even better technology. You can adapt or be destroyed. Those are your only choices. The Emperor remained silent for a long moment. Then he picked up a signing stylus and wrote his name at the bottom of the treaty. The sound of the stylus scratching on paper seemed amplified in the silent room. Morrison signed next, followed by Ambassador Johnson and Princess Nexara. The treaty was complete. It's done, the Emperor said. The Galactic Empire recognizes humanity as a sovereign species with equal rights and territory. And in return, Morrison added, humanity offers defensive technology, medical advances, and fair trade agreements. This is the beginning of a new era. Word of the treaty disseminated across the galaxy faster than light itself. On every world in the Empire, people gathered around communication screens to hear the impossible news. Their emperor, who had never bowed to anyone, had just signed a treaty with an unknown species. On the mining world of Kepler-7, the draconian slaves looked up from their work as the announcement played over the loudspeakers. For the first time in decades, they saw hope in each other's eyes. If the mighty empire could be compelled to negotiate, perhaps change was possible for them too. In the laboratories of Centauri Station, Zaxian scientists studied the technical data humanity had shared as part of the treaty. The fusion reactor designs were centuries ahead of their own technology. The medical scanners could detect diseases that their best equipment couldn't even perceive. How did they advance so quickly? Dr. Vandre asked her research team. Their species only discovered space travel a few hundred years ago. Her assistant, a young scientist named Mortex, studied the human data with fascination. They think differently than we do. Look at this reactor design. Instead of attempting to contain the fusion reaction with brute force, they guide it with magnetic fields. It's so simple, yet we never conceived of it. On the bridge of the USS Defiance, Morrison watched the planet below as news of the treaty spread. Crowds had gathered in the streets of the capital city, some celebrating, others protesting. Change was never easy, especially for a civilization that had known only conquest. "Sir," Communication Officer Amy Chen reported, "we're receiving messages from dozens of other species throughout the galaxy. They want to know if humanity will help them negotiate with the Empire too." Morrison smiled. "Tell them we'll consider it, but first we need to return home and report to Earth Command." Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks prepared the quantum displacement drive for the journey home. "Captain, this mission was a complete success. We've established humanity as a major power in galactic politics." "More than that," Morrison replied. "We've shown that there's an alternative to conquest and domination. Maybe other species will follow our example." Navigator Ben Taylor plotted their course back to Earth. It would be a long journey, but they were carrying news that would forever change human civilization. Earth was no longer alone in the universe. They had allies, trading partners, and a voice in galactic affairs. As the Defiance prepared to depart, Princess Nexa sent a final message from the planet below. "Captain Morrison, thank you for showing us a different path. I will work to ensure that this treaty is just the beginning of positive change in our empire." Morrison replied personally, "Princess, change takes time and courage. You possess both. Use them wisely." The USS Defiance activated its quantum drive and began to fade from normal space. The Zelaxian orbital defenses tracked them as they departed, but this time there was no hostility. The human ship had arrived as an unknown threat and was leaving as an ally. Emperor Zarthal stood in his palace looking up at the night sky where the human ship had been. General Kexmore stood beside him, still resentful of the treaty. "The other sector commanders are demanding explanations," the general reported. "Some are speaking of rebellion." "Let them talk," the Emperor replied. "They didn't witness what I saw. They didn't confront that ship and its weapons. Anyone who wishes to challenge humanity can try, but they'll do it without my support." Princess Nexara joined them on the balcony. "Father, I've been studying the human technology they shared with us. With their assistance, we could resolve the energy crisis on the outer worlds. We could cure the plague that's been spreading through the Andorian system. And in return," the Emperor asked, "we treat other species with respect instead of fear. We offer partnership instead of conquest. It's not weakness, Father. It's evolution." The Emperor looked at his daughter with newfound respect. Perhaps the young understood change better than the old. 3 months later, news reached Earth that the Calvarian rebellion had ended peacefully. The rebels had negotiated with the Empire, with human diplomats acting as mediators. 2 more species had signed treaties similar to the Terrazaxia Accords. Morrison read the reports in his office at Earth Command. Through his window, he could see construction crews working on new shipyards. Humanity was building a fleet that could defend their new position in galactic politics. His aide, Lieutenant Ryan Davis, brought him the latest intelligence reports. "Sir, we're receiving requests for assistance from 17 different species. They all desire help negotiating with various galactic powers. What's our response?" Morrison asked. "Admiral Stevens says we should be cautious not to overextend ourselves, but the President wants to establish humanity as a force for peace in the galaxy." Morrison nodded. It was a significant responsibility, but humanity had proven they could handle major challenges. The Defiance had returned to Earth as more than just a ship. It had become a symbol of humanity's emergence as a galactic power. The species that had once been considered a curiosity by frontier traders was now shaping the future of interstellar civilization. And in the depths of space, other civilizations watched and wondered if they too could find the courage to stand up to the powers that had oppressed them for so long. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had shown them that change was possible. The age of human diplomacy had begun, and nothing would ever be the same.